Greetings and salutations, everyone. I hope everyone is doing well today. Today I've got a rare little treat to share with you. A cryptid that I've never even heard of. If you guys have, please share with me what you guys know. Also, I have some terrifying Sasquatch encounters. Before we get into today's upload, a couple links I'd like to share. As you know, I rely on my Patreon, my PayPal, and my merchandise to help this channel to continue to grow and go. All of those links are in the description below. I also have a second channel for creepypasta, fanfiction, and scary voice acting. Stories that really don't fit on this channel. Now, if that's anything you're into, follow that link and give those stories a listen. You may just enjoy what you hear. I also started a GoFundMe page to help raise some money for legal fees on the crewing. As of right now, I have my 12-year-old daughter in my physical custody. Her mom is going through her own issues, which is kind of leaving her unfit. I'm providing a safe and stable environment for her, and my daughter and myself would like to keep that going. So court is the only answer. Now, if that's anything that you're willing to help with, that link is in the description below as well. Also, I'd like to thank all of the subscribers who have donated generously. It means the world to me. Thank you so much. And I'd like to thank everybody who has sent their prayers and well wishes. Thank you. Now I've taken enough of your time, guys. Let's get on with today's terrifying but very informative upload. Shall we? Today's first part of the upload. Papuan devil pig. Sighted in 1906, the Papuan devil pig is a proposed suet, or marsupial, that lives in the Owen-Stanley mountain range in peninsular Papua New Guinea. Evidence and sightings occurred past 9,000 feet, where open grassland, shrubland, and forests may be found. The animal is described as such: 5 feet long, 3.5 feet tall, long-snouted faced, with a strangely set of face, a short horse-like tail, possible cloven hooves, darkly colored skin or fur with patterns on it, and seemingly herbivorous, as signs of grazing were found on the mountain, and the creatures were snuffling and rooting in the grass when seen. Vocalization is apparently a long, shrill note. The average size of the footprints is around 4 inches by 4 inches. Both larger and smaller were reported. The footprints appeared cloven-hooved and left by a very heavy animal. Some history. Evidence for an animal sometimes called a rhino was present in Papua New Guinea. Sailors in the late 19th century would occasionally find large dung heaps in the coastal jungles of the island. Natives would talk of a very large pig that could reach 6 feet onto a tree to scratch itself. Thus, it was theorized that a large mammal did exist in Papua New Guinea. The Mount Scratchley expedition, Sir William McGregor, reported that among the known animals, the tree kangaroo, wallaby, Papuan dog, there had been seen a large, long-snouted animal that they had yet to obtain. Obviously, they had not been able to fetch a specimen before returning. In 1906, the most famous sighting of this cryptid beast occurred when during the Mount Albert Edward expedition led by Charles Monckton, tracks and excrement of a large, apparently cloven-hooved animal were found at over 9,000 feet on the mountain. Monckton sent 2 men, Constable Owen and Private Oogie, the porters, to track the animal. The 2 later returned at late dusk, with Owen having to have carried Ogie back to camp due to his exhaustion from fear and cold. Ogie had split up with Owen to follow a different trail and encountered a pair of the animals a ways down, and mistook them initially for large pigs. The animals then noticed them, and it was seen the face was odd and elongated. The porters cried out that the pigs were in fact devils and fled. Ogie tried to shoot one, but was too cold and frightened to accurately shoot. The animals moved away, with one moving off and then calling to the other, who's looking at the men. Monckton sent this account to McGregor, who confirmed such an animal and its spoor was seen on its expedition, with one having rushed through his camp at night when he ascended Mount Victoria. Monckton remarked that the footprints of Ogie's pig and feces of a large carnivore, he considered it be different to the Papuan dog, which he did hear and see spoor of, were quite common in the muddy banks of the montane lakes, and that given the time Ogie saw the beasts evening, they were probably nocturnal. Monckton's report and his thoughts on the animal were detailed in his book, Last Days in New Guinea, free to read on Google. His report on the tusk is in a different volume of his. Curiously, due to the media embellishment of Monckton's accounts, hair cues worn by a tribe became tails, for example. Many people dismiss this account as fictitious tabloid writing, in the same vein as those from the same period about living dinosaurs. People then and now referred to it as Monckton's Gazeka, referring to a then famous fictional beast called the Gazeka, which appeared in a play as an alcohol-induced hallucination, implying Monckton's drunkenly hallucinated the beast. This name has unfortunately been misconstrued as the native name for the animal. Eventually, even the appearance of the animal and its behavior changed. According to Monckton, one paper said it was a rhinoceros, and more infamously, an American paper reported the Gazeka was a 25-foot-tall carnivore that had attacked a tribe of pygmies, only be shot and wounded by Monckton. This is the account that has made the devil pig be seen in the same light as tabloid reports about dinosaurs and aliens. Obviously, the original report and media stories were quite different. Explanations. Monckton himself believed the animal was something similar to a babirusa, and later came by a tusk in the market that he thought may have originated from the devil pig. Julius von Hest identified it as a babirusa tusk. The babirusa is not known from New Guinea, though they are found in nearby Indonesia. It is possible, though unlikely, that they swam the oceanic border to reach New Guinea, or came across when sea levels were lower. One thing Monckton was sure the beast was not as a normal pig, as he knew the men who saw the creatures hunted and saw pig at close range on a regular basis. The habitat the animals were encountered in would allow either an unidentified suid or tapir or marsupial to survive unmolested. However, no sightings have been since reported, meaning the animal may be extinct, though as far as known, there have been no more extensive expeditions to study Mount Albert Edwards and the associated mountains fauna since. Today's second part of the upload is a Sasquatch encounter. I was born and raised in a little town west of Paris, Texas, in Lamar County. While I was growing up, I had heard of Bigfoot. It wasn't something I spent much time thinking about, but I would watch documentaries with my two brothers. I guess I didn't actually consider them real. I had never seen one and didn't know anyone who had, so for me, they weren't real. It was summer, and my brothers and I were out of school. Just as we did every year, we were spending as much time as we could at the lake. We had a trail behind our house that went straight through the woods to the local lake. The trail was about a mile long, but when you're a kid, it doesn't matter how far you have to walk, just as long as you can go swimming with your friends. My brothers and I were both good swimmers, so Mom really didn't worry much about us. Occasionally, she would drive over to the lake and check on us, but most of the time we were on our own. We would get there after our chores were done and stay until just about dark. Sometimes she'd let my brother pitch a tent with their friends and spend the night at the lake. I was never allowed to do this because I was a girl, but that was okay with me. Mom and Dad would pitch a tent in the backyard for me and my friends. It was on a Friday, and my brothers were setting up their tent by the lake. My friends and I had been swimming most of the day when my mom came by with a late lunch for us. She had picked up burgers from the local fast food place. I didn't really want anything, so I had my soda while the boys ate their burgers. Afterward, it was right back into the water. Mom yelled after me to start home before dark. I had walked home plenty of times without my brothers, so tonight wouldn't have been different. The sun was starting to sink low in the sky, and most of my friends had already left for the day. I knew I should be heading home too, but I chose to stay for a few more minutes and help my brothers gather firewood. I grabbed the bag that contained my uneaten cheeseburger and headed for the path in the woods. As I walked, I began to feel more and more uneasy. I kept telling myself that there was no reason to feel this way. I had walked through here many times, and a lot of them were alone after dark. I'd gone about a quarter of the way when I heard a short snorting sound that I wasn't familiar with. I stopped to listen. I knew it wasn't a deer. I stood there silently, but the woods were quiet. Actually, they were a little bit too quiet. Usually, there's a sound of frogs and crickets with it being this close to the water, but tonight, they didn't make a sound. I started to walk again, but this time it was a little faster. I kept scolding myself for being afraid. This time, as I walked, I heard a deep grunt. It stopped me dead in my tracks. There was something in the woods with me, and I had no clue what was out there with me, but I knew it wasn't normal. I kept hearing my mom's words, "Get home before it gets dark." Now I was really wishing I had listened. As I began to walk, I thought I could hear footsteps. The steps seemed to be matching my own. I needed to stop and listen, but to stop walking was the last thing I wanted to do. I finally took a deep breath and stopped. I heard it. 3 more steps right after mine. I was sure of it. Someone was in the woods with me. Had someone been watching us at the lake today? I was absolutely terrified. It was all I could do to keep myself from breaking into a full run. For a split second, I thought about going back, but I was now about halfway, so it would be best to just keep heading home. Then I wondered if anyone would hear me if I screamed. I heard a low grunt and started walking again. I needed to get closer to home. If I got closer to the house, they may hear me if I start screaming. I pictured Mom in the kitchen cooking dinner with her radio turned to a country station and singing along. Dad would be in the living room with the news on. The central air would be whirling along. They would not hear me, no matter how loud I screamed. I continued my fast walk with my heart beating in my ears. My sweaty hand clutched the bag tightly that contained my uneaten lunch. I'd forgotten all about it until I felt the cramp in my fingers. The footsteps had begun again just as I started to walk. They didn't sound exactly the same as they had before. I was straining my ears to find out why they sounded so differently. When I realized what it was, my heart froze with complete terror. These footsteps were now behind me on the trail. I stopped and swung around before thinking. There behind me was something nightmares were made of. About 15 feet away from me is this creature that had stopped too. It stood there in the middle of the dark trail looking at me. I couldn't make out much detail because it was dark, so I assumed the hair was black. It looked to be about 8 feet tall and about 4 feet from shoulder to shoulder. Out of reflex, I let out an involuntary scream. When I screamed, this thing tilted its head to the side, much like a dog would do when it hears something it doesn't understand. I began to slowly back away from it. After just a few steps, it let out another grunt that sounded like a huge ape. It was deep, throaty sound. It took a step forward at me, and I let out another scream, then threw the bag at it. I turned and ran for home as hard as I could run. I didn't slow down until I reached the back porch. When I went inside, it was pretty much like I had described. There was no way they would have ever heard me scream. I went to my bedroom and sat down on my bed. My mind was still trying to sort out what had just happened, what I had seen. Just thinking about it gave me the creeps. I would never be able to walk those woods in the dark again. I may not be able to walk them in the daylight. Where had this thing come from? Has it always lived there? I had so many questions. I wanted to talk to my brothers about it, but I knew they would never believe me and would just tease me. I fell asleep that night thinking about the way it had tilted its head when I screamed. The next morning, I waited around the house until my mom drove into town, and I got her to drop me off at the lake. My brothers were getting ready to go swimming. They both asked me what happened to me last night. I didn't know why they were asking me this, and I was curious as how much they knew, so I responded, "Nothing, why?" Then they proceeded to tell me that one of them got hit with the fast food bag last night while sitting by the campfire. Naturally, they assumed it was me teasing them. And the other one kept hearing me scream really late last night. How could they have heard me scream late at night when I made it home pretty early? I knew I couldn't tell them what happened, but I really wanted to. They said their friends told them that the screams were coming from a Bigfoot. A few of them got scared and went home. I laughed right along with my brothers. How silly to think there was a Bigfoot in these woods. Today's third part of the upload. A woman saw a small Bigfoot-like creature on July 18th of 2008 near the town of Red Lion, Pennsylvania. She states that she had been shopping and was on her way home. As she was driving south on Route 624, about 2 miles from Red Lion, she noticed something run across the field near a home construction site. At first, she thought it was a large dog, but it stood upright like a human. She pulled her car onto an unfinished side road and observed the creature for several minutes as it would stop, look around, then it would continue running until it reached a small woods. She states that it was around 7 at night and clear. She describes the creature as stocky with muscular arms and legs and no more than 4 foot in stature and sparsely covered with dark gray hair. It had no clothes, though she couldn't determine its gender. At one point, she says that she was near enough to notice the head was smaller than that of a human child of the same height. She said that the only person that she told was a neighbor about the sighting and that she didn't want any notoriety. This could have been a juvenile Sasquatch or a juvenile Dogman. There have been local and Indian legends of a small hominid, the Alba Witch, in Lancaster and York counties. The Alba Witch is a small, about 4 feet tall, man-like creature which is supposed to live in the wooded areas. Their main area of residence seemed to be near the Chickies Rock, a heavily wooded area along the banks of the Susquehanna River, about a mile or 2 north of Columbia, Pennsylvania. Alba witches are also reported to be from wooded areas along the river's shore, and were said to be fond of apples. Thus, their bizarre common name is short for apple snitch. Legend also says that the Alba witch either became extinct or was driven nearly into extinction in the later years of the 19th century. Chickies Rock, where the creature supposedly lived, does have a tradition of strange sightings and sounds. In the 50s and 70s, a man-like figure was seen several times, and local legend also speaks of a sound like a crack of a whip being heard in the woods at night. Several sightings of a Bigfoot-type creature had been recorded in that area. A vague report concerning a sighting of a hairy humanoid came from Lancaster in '73. Lancaster is 10 miles east of Columbia. Another came from a town up north called North Anvil, about 20 miles north, in that same year. In addition, a number of reports had surfaced out of the neighboring York County, where Red Lion is located. Here's one such. I was on my way to the grocery store one day about 2 or 3 weeks ago when I saw something standing upright against or behind a tree. At least it looked that way. It happened when I was crossing a railroad track, and that was against a hill that had a sharp bend at the top, so I didn't stop, fearing someone would come over it and hit me from behind. At the time, I tried to tell myself that maybe it was the tree, so when I came back from the store, whatever I saw wasn't there anymore, and I just can't explain it. It wasn't the same color as the tree. That's what made me curious. It was a light reddish brown with beige, almost like the hair was two-tone or something. The hair looked like it was jagged tufts that looked like if it would be darker underneath if you lifted it. At the same time, looked like you would like to touch it. Maybe that's because I'm a hairdresser. I can't explain what it was since I didn't see a face, nor did I see any arms or hair. But whatever it was about 6 or 8 feet tall from the ground to where it stopped, about 6 to 8 feet alongside the tree. I did notice the part that I saw was a little rounded at the top, as if suggesting a shoulder. It wasn't another tree since nothing else in the area, tree or bush, was the same color. I wish now that I had gotten someone and looked for tracks. It has rained 3 or 4 times now, so I guess it wouldn't be able to see anything. I may go look anyway. I don't know if it could have been a Sasquatch or what it could have been. But whatever it was standing straight and tall and didn't move. I don't know if the old big guy, if that's what it was passing by or if it's local. There have been sightings to the south of us, Little Bennett Campground in Frederick County, and some north of us in Adams County, Pennsylvania, which is just around 12 to 15 miles from here. I'd like to see him in the daytime if that's what I saw, but it would scare me shitless if I was to see it at night. I'm here a lot at night by myself, and our dog wants to go out. When she does, she acts like she's scared sometimes, and she stays right on the deck and looks. I sometimes wonder what she's looking at. Wow, I told you I had an amazing but informative and terrifying upload to share with you. I really am fascinated by the devil pig from Papua New Guinea. Now, I've always been fascinated with that area of New Guinea, Tasmania, Australia. They have a lot of fascinating animal wildlife there. Unfortunately, in Australia, a lot has been tragically killed by the fires. But New Guinea is pretty much not explored 100%. We're going back 120 years ago, and it hasn't been explored since. So I'm wondering if this type of creature is still up there. Very interesting. There's a biologist named Forrest Gillette, and he studies creatures like this. And I'm gonna actually look up some of his research tonight because this has got me wondering now. Very interesting. The Sasquatch encounter from Texas, that is just straight across the board chilling. Because as I was reading it first before I narrated it, I was thinking about my daughter Belle and going, geez, I'm crow. If she saw this creature, what would she do? Very interesting, but terrifying because, it must have been scared or its ears were hurting when the little girl shrieked. But I found it humorous that it probably was watching the kids down by the lake because it threw the bag at the brothers. Almost to say, you guys are jerks. You let your sister walk home and I could have gotten her. Just a little bit of, laughter there. But definitely a terrifying encounter for that poor little girl. The last encounters, I think the very first part, what they may have saw was a juvenile Dogman. Just the way that it was described, running on all fours, dark gray. Yes, Sasquatches can be any color, but I'm pretty sure that this was a juvenile Dogman. Of course, there is lots of hairy cryptids in that area, and so who knows? The Albut Witch is a very interesting legend. It's about 4 foot tall, man-like creature. So, but it steals apples, so I don't know if a Dogman is very fond of apples. Maybe it is. Who knows? The last part of that story, though, when the woman saw I think it was a Sasquatch that she saw at the end, the reddish brown colored 6 to 8 foot tall creature. I'm almost curious if that's what that dog is afraid of when it's standing on the back deck. But this area is a hot spot. Pennsylvania, Ohio is a hot spot for Dogman activity for some reason, and Sasquatch, which makes me wonder, like, if there's any more. I'm wondering if, like, Bo, he saw the Dogman and Sasquatch fight. I wonder if anybody else has seen this. I'm probably pretty sure some people have, but I almost would put money on it if I had it, that the best place to see a Sasquatch and Dogman coexist would be in the Pennsylvania region. And I think, when I put together my research this summer and do, what I want to do, I might go there and check it out. There's a lot of interesting campgrounds in Pennsylvania. Beautiful land. Who knows? Maybe I'd see one. The jagged tufts. It looked like it was darker underneath. Yeah, I'm 100% sure that the last sighting was a Sasquatch. But what's creepy is she states that at the top there was a rounded portion at the top which suggested a shoulder. Can you imagine an 8-foot shoulder? Like 8 feet in the air, a shoulder. That's another 1 to 2 feet. We're talking 10-foot Sasquatch, 9 to 10-foot Sasquatch. Max, maybe even bigger. Who knows? Maybe it was an alpha. Really interesting, though. And I don't know. I'd love to go and check out that area and see what I can find. Right now, my cat is trying to jump on my desk, and the asshole just did. So that's the noise that you hear. Get down, buddy. Great. So usually when he does that, I stop recording, but I'm 7 minutes into the outro, so I'm just going to keep it in there. Sorry. But wow, pretty good upload tonight, and I'm happy with it. I hope you guys are. I really, after this, am going to check out some of Forrest Gillette's studies. Now, he is a very intelligent person. He's from South Africa, and he actually has saved wildlife and found near extinct wildlife. He found some sort of black caiman, a tortoise, I think in New Guinea, maybe. But he has done phenomenal work. So if you guys ever want a good read or to check something out, Forrest Gillette, he's an amazing smart guy. He's on Joe Rogan's podcast twice. I learned a lot from him, and he actually has the same view I have, where the thylacine could be what people are calling the North American chupacabra. I've been talking to a few friends about the chupacabra, and I think we have kind of North Americanized that word. The L chupacabra is a short, two-legged, spiked-backed creature that almost resembles a kangaroo. And then in North America, we have the long-muzzled, dog-like version. Very interesting. I don't know. Now I'm just getting off topic. I hope you guys enjoyed these. I got some subscriber Dogman encounters coming up tomorrow. I have some subscriber ghost paranormal activity stuff to share. A subscriber UFO encounter. I got some good shit on my desk right now. And I can't wait to start sharing more of it with you guys. So with that, I want to bid you farewell.